All right. So, hey guys, how are you doing? We're here to talk about the U.S. Under-20 game in the Revelations Cup with Colombia. The score is 1-1. The U.S. scored in the first half from a Caden Clark penalty that was won by Brian Gutierrez. I hope I'm saying that right. Any
Mhm.
Spanish speakers can tell me if I'm not. And then Colombia literally scored in the last action of the game after there was a red card given to who was the player that got the red card again?
Quinn Sullivan.
Quinn Sullivan. Yeah, it was a nasty tackle, but I don't think it was red worthy. I think it was yellow. We also had a stomping incident where one of the Colombian players stomped on Paxton Arison and got away with it because, CONCACAF. Now, as far as the result, Filippo, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I
I'm
was gonna
not
say,
really too worried about the result. I could not care less at this level. What are your thoughts?
yeah, it's again when it comes to youth tournament, you want to come in with the mentality of winning it, and you want to build
For
that
sure.
winning culture. But essentially, what you want to do is you want to see players that you could see projections of him being in the future in the senior squad, showing flashes of talent, or where players can improve or be used, test them in different positions sometimes, or at their main position. Uh, but still, I'm not happy with this tournament, and I think it's more because of how USSF organized it, and they set up these 17-year-olds to fail. Like even the coach Mickey Vadas, I don't know if he's good or not. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And he was just hired last week.
Yeah, and the players they were just put together in the situation. They're 17 uh, against these teams that have been preparing for a while. It's hard to judge, but uh, I don't want to be overly critical of anything, to be honest. Let's talk about the good stuff. What was good? There was a few good things.
Yeah. And so I said at the beginning of this tournament, don't look at the results. Okay. What you want to look for is players who are comfortable receiving the ball in traffic and then have the ability and intelligence and courage to A, get out of traffic, and B, do something with it or play through it, right? Do something with the ball. So far in the last two games, the only two players that have really stood out to me that I think have the potential to be elite are Caden Clark and Paxton Aronson. That doesn't mean there weren't other good players. There were some good performances, but those two for me seem like a head and shoulders above everybody else. Is that your general notion as well, or is there anybody else I've missed?
Yeah, there were guys that had sparks at moments, like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned Brian Gutierrez. He had some good moments. Borto had some good moments in the second half too.
Sure.
There's different things we saw. Quinn Sullivan looked better today than last game. But yeah, Paxton and Caden Clark, they showed ability on the ball and some extra abilities off the ball.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is something that it doesn't mean they're going to be anything crazy good. We don't know that, but they have the potential, at least from what we've seen. These two players, everyone else, I don't know. Justin Shea was one I expected more from Justin.
Yeah.
We can talk about him later in the video here, but Paxton and Caden were the ones, and Caden Clark showed a lot of personality today as well. The
Yeah.
way
With
he
that
took the people,
Panenka.
yeah,
That Panenka. But
commanding
also
the team as
it
the
was his
captain
work
too.
rate. Huh?
Yeah, and commanding the team as a captain. I felt like he was a captain.
Yeah, exactly. That showed strong leadership. Paxton Aronson also being played out of position. He came on as a striker replacement for Malik Sanogo. And I swear to God, every time Paxton Aronson was on the ball, you felt like something could happen. This guy is technical. He's silky. He's quick. He has very good control. He still needs to work on the physicality side of his game, but I don't care that much about that. He's 17, 18. That will come. What I want to know is, can you play? He plays like a South American player, Paxton Aronson. I'm
Yeah,
going to go out on a limb here and make a prediction. Okay, this someone can clip this and come back and get me in a couple of years.
yeah, I know what
I
you're gonna say.
what?
You're gonna compare. You're gonna say something about him and Brandon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think Paxton's going to end up being better than his brother because Brendan Aronson at that age was not that good. He was not that. He was not like this, and I think he's going to be better. He reminds me of a pure 10, Paxton Aronson, in terms of how he plays. But he also works hard enough that he could play as a dual 8 in our system down the line easily, in my opinion.
yeah. He's one thing to notice about Paxton is I don't know if he's more talented. Right, we don't know that. Sometimes it's just talent, but he's definitely more technical and better on the ball than Brendan was at this age. And honestly, on the ball, it's because Brendan has many other skill sets that he brings on the table that Paxton doesn't have yet. Because
No.
Brendan developed it and developed a lot of it at Salzburg now as well.
Yeah.
But on the ball, he's probably as good as Ben. He's very sneaky with the ball, tries incisive passing. And
Yeah.
one thing we didn't see in this tournament, but we saw during MLS season with Paxton, is he's deadlier on the finishing and on the final third to finish the score.
Yeah.
Something Brendan wasn't on the Philly days, and
No, he got
still
better.
isn't.
He got
Yeah, he's
better.
still not really a goal scorer.
Yeah. So look, I think Paxton needs to have another strong year with Philly next year. Like he started well. This year he had some ins and outs. He's been playing more recently. We'll see how he does in the playoffs, right? But I was very impressed with Paxton and with Caden. Now, for me, that was the top level of this group. From what I've seen, this is small sample size, 2 games. But I've also seen Paxton and Caden in MLS. So that's a different story. The next level down are guys who I thought impressed me, but I'm not saying they're at the same level of Clark and Paxton right now. Caleb Wiley, I liked. I thought Jacob Green showed a lot of interesting things. I don't think Quinn Sullivan was as bad as some people are saying he was. I know it'll be colored by the red card, but I thought most of the game he seems like a very technical player. Very comfortable on the ball, very comfortable beating players on the dribble, good with his passing, quick with his decision making. That's what I like about him too. He doesn't dawdle on the ball. He doesn't take too much time. Borto had some good moments, although he was flailing a little bit in the first half, but I think overall I'm going to give Borto something along that level. I liked Caden Pierre as well. I think there was something about him as a right wing back that was good. Other than that, Sanogo, okay, you give me your second tier of guys who were like you thought were good but didn't stand out, in a major way.
Well, Caleb, right? Caleb Willie from Willie or
Yeah,
Wiley? Is it Willie?
Wiley.
Wiley. Yeah, Caleb Wiley he's from the Atlanta United Academy still.
Yeah,
And another thing to point out about him is he looked good, and he's only 16, right? He's a little
very
bit
young.
younger. He's a year younger than most of the players in this tournament. So it's honestly just him. I didn't think the center backs were good on the ball, off the ball. Danny Leyva wasn't good in the first game. Didn't play today. Danny didn't come in.
No, Danny didn't play
Yeah,
today.
didn't
He
come
was
in.
terrible in the first game.
Yeah, we didn't see Cade Cowell today as well to see if he could maybe bounce back from the not so good performance in the first game as well.
Yeah.
Malik Sonogo also didn't look good today. Offsides a lot. Didn't look like he. I don't
Also
want
didn't
to
look
say he
like he
didn't want to.
cared that much.
Yeah, he didn't seem like he cared as much about the game. Could just be his style. And I
Yeah.
don't question his potential because what he did in Germany so far to be highly rated, he does have potential, but didn't look like he was very motivated for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't the thing is when you go back to 2019, remember the U17 World Cup that we lost in
Yeah.
the group stage?
Yeah.
We had Scally, Pepe, Busio, Reina. Did I miss anyone else?
Those are the 4 who've been the most successful. I
Yeah,
mean,
and they
Danny
were there.
Leyva was in that group. He captained
Danny,
that team.
he started. Yeah, he
He
started.
started.
And I mean, we got smoked in that tournament. We got like 1 point and
Yeah.
kind of like this one. We might lose to Mexico in the last game and finish with 1 point.
Yeah.
But you got 4 guys there that are now in the senior squad and are playing in Europe very well. Pepe will be in Europe very soon. So if we get that out of this tournament, 2 to 3 guys or 4 guys that can play at that level, it's a win.
Yes. You have to remember, guys, under 20s, most of them are not going to make it in terms of becoming great. Some of these guys might be MLS lifers, maybe. But what you really want is 4 or 5 guys from each group, from each age group, like each U20 cycle, you need 4 guys to hit, okay? Because if the average age of a national team player's career is, say, 10 years, let's be generous, it can be longer, but 10 to 12 years, then you're talking about how many U20 cycles is that? That's 5 U20 cycles, okay? So if you get 4 players from each U20 cycle and there's 5, that's 20 guys right there, right? So you don't need all of them to hit. You need a few of them to really get big. And also there are guys who weren't here, right? Who also have very high ceilings. Gomez, Paredes, Nyman, guys like that. Pepe was still eligible. So again, the results don't really bother me, except that they are a result of incompetence at USSF, and the way we prepped for this tournament was poor. But I'm more interested in the players themselves and what this is going to look like in a few years. And I think Clark and Paxton have showed that there really is something there with both of them,
Now, overall, again, so just to recap one thing to everyone. In terms of results, there's been 2 games. We have 1 point. Brazil leads. Mexico has 1 point. Colombia has 2.
So Mexico drew with Brazil?
Well, they're playing. They're going to play now. Mexico has 1 point. They drew with
Oh, right,
Colombia.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then on
100%.
Tuesday, there's going to be another game, USA and Mexico. We are not going to be able to do a live stream for it. We're not going to be able to do a post match focused on it because we're going to be covering the senior squad. What we're
Yeah,
going to do is here at 11 Yanks, the game will be going on when we're doing the post match. So we're going
yeah,
to have the game on and we'll talk about it. And Pete, depending on your energy levels, we could maybe even stay live for the
yeah,
second half of the game and finish the game on it. So
yeah.
we won't do a watch along on my channel. We're going to technically do a post match for Jamaica and a watch along here.
Here on
Kind
11
of, yeah.
Yanks. Yeah, so we'll cover both. We'll talk about the end of the Jamaica game. We'll also be watching USA Mexico because USA
Yeah.
Mexico, that's always good. Even at U20
Mhm.
level, it would be great if we could beat them though. Again, if we could collect another scalp, that would be fantastic. But again, I'm not that worried about results. I'm more worried about finding gems, and that's really what it is.
Mhm.
Constantine says Marcelo Flores should play for Canada. Honestly, him and Lainez are probably the only gems. If you look at Mexico, man, only young gems that they really have. I mean, I know there's that kid who went to Newcastle. What's his name?
Santi Munoz.
Munoz. Yeah, he was decent. He had a decent year, but JJ Macias had a few good years in Liga MX, and it's not translating right now to Getafe, where he's playing in La Liga. So my concern with this age group is the center backs. We don't seem outside of Justin Che.
And the 6.
Yeah, and the six.
Yeah.
Edelman was okay, but not he wasn't a standout. Outside of Justin Che, and even Justin Che hasn't been that impressive. I don't know long term because look at our center backs now. We only have two guys who are actually quote unquote young, right? That's Chris Richards and Mark McKenzie. They're 21 and 22. Okay. Even Miles Robinson is almost 25. Zimmerman and Brooks are almost 30. So where's this next generation of center backs going to come from? That's what concerns me. Because if I look around MLS, not a lot of young American center backs getting time, right? So that's concerning because you cannot have a generation without good center backs.
Not just that too is we're showing all these young center backs that we have. We've seen in Olympic qualifying. We're seeing it again. We continue to develop center backs that are not ball playing center backs. None of
Yeah,
them, right? It's
none of them.
okay. So sometimes it's okay to have a center back that's less good on the ball but he brings physicality. But you need one that is very technical, can push the ball forward. But it doesn't seem like that. Maybe Justin Che will be that. We didn't see it in this tournament, but I think this term is also not the best to judge him, at
No,
least.
no.
But this is something we should talk about in this stream too, because me and Pete have been talking about this quite a bit in private, Pete, and it's about the
Yeah.
MLS academies.
Yes.
Do you want me to open up with it, or do you
Yeah,
want to?
go for it. Go for it.
So, people, soccer fans in America love to say how the MLS academies are doing a great job and we're developing all this talent now. And in fact, it's better than the past. There's no way to question that. It would be nonsense for me to question that. But what
Yeah.
I kept saying here in the channel at 11 Yanks and at my channel, I kept saying is the job done by MLS academies is still poor. It's bad. MLS academies. We have, in my opinion, one academy that does a good job and still could do better, which is Dallas. And then we have Philly's academy that does a little bit worse of a job than in terms of volume of
Well,
producing.
I think that they just started later. But if you look at the guys that are coming out of Philly now, like Brendan and Mark McKenzie both came out of Philly. So you have to give them that. I think
Mhm.
they're just behind Dallas by 5 years. But then you look at Paxton, Quinn Sullivan, and McGlynn, who've all played MLS minutes this year. I think they're just behind Dallas by a few years.
But what we need to start producing here in the United States are not players that are going to be role players or debatably MLS lifers. We need players that are going to be so. Okay,
Well, to be fair, though, the two guys they developed already in Europe, McKenzie and Brendan.
how Mackenzie's not going well.
Right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll
but he's a
see,
center
yeah.
back, right? He's 22. So the fact is, Walker Zimmerman at 22 is in college. So
Mhm.
we don't know how that will end up yet.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on Philly. We'll have to wait and see. But Brendan is probably the big name that's already came. He came to Europe and he's already having an impact on a good team. He's already immediately starting.
Yeah.
And then when we go after that, you get like these random players from random academies, like Tyler Adams from New York Red Bulls, and he's there being successful. And then FC Dallas has the volume, right? They have Weston, Chris Richards, Brian Reynolds too, which is struggling, would be a similar situation to McKenzie right now. Brian Reynolds, Christian Kappas has been doing good now. He's also from FC Dallas. Jonathan Gomez, many people forget this, but he was from the FC Dallas Academy until he went to Lou City.
Yeah.
Dante Sealy. So there's many players, but when you get out of that, MLS academies are still not doing a great job, and there's some of them that are doing a horrendous job, actually. By the way, and along with that, and
should we call out the ones that are doing a terrible job? Because I feel like nobody calls them out.
Houston Dynamo.
Houston Dynamo. Okay, we'll go back and forth. I'm going to call out Portland Timbers.
Okay. Minnesota.
Yep, Minnesota. I'm going to say New York Red Bulls. They got Caden Clark, okay, from Minnesota, but they haven't.
Well, they got it from Barcelona.
Well, yeah, from the Barcelona Academy. He, was in a Minnesota Academy before that. What are they really doing? With him, that other than him and John Tolkien, not good enough from the Red Bulls. Some of the newer teams, I'll be a little more sympathetic to because it takes a long time to develop players. Like you have to start them at 9, 10 years old or younger. So if you're 5 years in MLS, I'm going to give you a bit of a pass. Seattle Sounders, though, for all of their academy stuff, who have they really produced?
Lately?
Nobody.
No.
I mean, Leyva was their big guy, right? Leyva was the guy that we were supposed, and he's been in MLS for 3-4 years now, and he hasn't improved at all. So even LA Galaxy, for the amount of talent that is in Southern California, both the LA Galaxy should be doing much better. Now, LAFC should too, but again, they just started and they have seemed to have going quite well so far in LAFC in terms of development. The problem is the 2 young Mexican Americans in the LAFC Academy are playing for Mexico in this tournament. That's Tony Leone, who, by the way, is a center back who could represent us, and Christian Torres, right?
And also, if we go to, I'm going to talk a little bit about Orlando City, which I personally know fairly well. Orlando City is also a fairly new MLS club, right? We've been around for 6 seasons now, I think.
Yeah.
6 seasons, yeah. So that's young, but not too young. And they didn't do much in regards to the academy until Oscar Pareja arrived. And he's revamping it. He's trying to build it. And if they keep him and don't fire him, which they should keep him for a long time if they can, he will do a good job because he was part of the FC Dallas Academy. He helped everything that happened there. So maybe Orlando City can eventually become a strong guy. But right now, there's a lot that has to improve there. And even the guys that work there recognize that and are trying to improve it. It's not there yet, but it's at least I see it on track. The problem I see with a lot of MLS academies too is how many MLS clubs, Pete, have a U12 team?
I mean, they'll have affiliate U12 teams, but not a free U12 team that
they should have theirs.
Yeah, of course they should. And it should be the best U12 players in the region.
And probably, and honestly, if you're going to go that age, I think they should have a field one as well, probably, but they should have in their academy a U10, U12, also futsal team. Yeah. So they have both. And then you transition the players when they hit 13 and they come into the field much more technical and much more ready in that sense. Then you adjust them tactically and they learn how to play in the field.
Yeah.
But none of them have it, right? And but going back to what you said, so you said Sounders. Now it's my turn. Who am I gonna say now? Let me see a team. Well, I was gonna say Inter Miami. I can't because they just started.
I'm gonna give Nashville, Inter Miami a pass.
Yeah, Austin as well. They just started
Austin as well. Yeah.
Has New England been developing?
No,
people?
nobody. No. Who have they developed apart from Tajon Buchanan?
Which is not ours anyway.
No, he's Canadian, but they've been unoriginal, right? What about Columbus Crew? Who have they developed? Right?
No one. They signed Zardes.
No. Right. Nobody from Columbus Crew. You know who else? San Jose. Nothing. Nobody.
Jackson Yo.
No, they got him from college.
Why would they?
He spent 2 years in college and then they drafted him. And I'm not talking about draftees here. Now, Sporting KC tries, but the volume is still too low. Like you can't just say Busio and then that's it, right? Chicago for years hasn't developed anybody. Now, listen, you don't get credit if you've been in MLS for 25 years and you've been part of the development academy since 2007 and you now have 1 or 2 guys. No, that's not a good academy.
Because it's an accident.
Yeah.
It's just an accident.
Gems can come out of whatever. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't mean anything. To be a good academy, you need to have 3 or 4 good quality prospects coming through your pipeline every year, the way Philly and Dallas do. So not good enough, in my opinion.
And
Most
this is
MLS teams.
the thing was the Dallas Academy. If you go like for Brazil standards, and we talked about this, the Dallas Academy is an average first division Brazilian academy, right? And if you have an MLS 20 or 30 of those,
Yeah,
then holy smokes, you start to produce a lot of talents, and you can even afford bust. You can afford players that don't develop because you're
right.
developing so many that you can afford a few to fail. Now, right now, we're in a situation where like Pete was saying, the center backs, what if McKenzie or Richards don't live to the potential? Who do we have at that age?
Yeah.
It becomes a problem.
2026 is going to be crucial, okay? Because Brooks is going to be 33. He may or may not be at the right level anymore, 34 possibly, right? Zimmerman and Long are going to be way past, and already they're already like questionable, right? But they're going to be mid 30s. So you're talking Miles Robinson, who will be in his prime, late 20s, and we don't even know how good he's going to be. What's his ceiling going to be, right? And then you have Chris Richards, maybe, who we think he's going to reach potential. We believe that, or at least be a good European center back. But then after that, is Mark McKenzie going to hit? Is Justin Shea going to hit? Who do we have? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe Miazga will be about 30 at that time, but I'm talking about elite center backs. If we want to go into 2026 and compete for a semifinal spot or a third place spot, you need elite center backs. Right now, I look at one who could maybe be elite, and that's Chris Richards, right?
Yeah. And we have that problem at the six as well, because we continue to develop these sixes that are very athletic, they hustle, they fight for the ball. And if they're technical, they're super slow and not athletic. It's kind of like we can't find the balance.
Yeah.
So when you look at the sixth position, we have a current problem on the sixth position because we don't have a really high quality backup for Tyler yet. And it doesn't look like they're coming from the youth system. Now, what I personally hope is that we lock in Johnny Cardoso and he does live up to some of the expectations, because if he does, he'll be a quality player. That's what I hope. But okay, what if we get him? One, he's not developed in MLS, so it's not like an MLS academy did the job.
No.
Two, that's one player. What if
Right.
he's injured? What if Adams is injured? Then you don't have a
Yes,
backup.
exactly. These are crucial questions that we should be asking now, because we don't want to be reactionary like MSM and go, what are we doing 5 years from now? Now, some people are saying Matt Miazga. Guys, Matt Miazga is 26. In 2026, he's going to be 31. And he's not an elite center back, okay?
No.
He's entering his prime. Very likely he will be a decent to good top 5 league center back. That's not elite, okay? That's decent. In a World Cup, that's like, that's not going to get you a World Cup semifinal.
I'm okay with like having 2 elites and then Miazga being the backup of the 2 elites. That is acceptable. But we need to have the elites.
Okay, but what if one elite gets injured before the World Cup and the other elite gets a red card? Now you know what I mean? Who are your backups, right?
We don't have it.
This is the problem that we, like Brazil in 2014, Thiago Silva and Neymar are out, and all of a sudden they crumble.
And you know what's funny? But to add to that, just this is interesting that you brought that up, because even though Brazil lost Thiago Silva and Neymar, if we remember, Dante, that was a Bayern Munich center back, replaced Thiago Silva, which is not that bad. And Neymar was replaced by Bernard, which was an Everton player. So you see, so this is what the United States needs to aim for.
Yes, we need to have most of our roster in 2026 needs to be Champions League players. If we want to compete for a semifinal or a third place spot in the World Cup, we need 20 Champions League players on that roster. That's just the truth. So it's something we should talk about now, and how we're developing players and who is there in the future. And of course, you can't give up on any of these guys. They're all very young. Some guys mature late. Maybe Justin Shea will become an elite center back. He certainly could project that way, and I hope he will. But I mean, there are some real questions about what we're doing from a youth development perspective, and we can't get complacent, right? Like, I spoke to somebody in German football right after they won the World Cup in 2014. And he said to me, you know, the big problem now for Germany is we're getting complacent because we're winning the World Cup. But now I think we need to go even and double down and become even more focused, youth development. And we have to. And he was really serious in saying, like, it's one thing to get to the top. It's harder to stay there. And they just won a World Cup. And he was talking about how far they still have to go to improve. And that's what we need to do too. If we want to be an elite country in the world in soccer, to compete with the big nations on a regular basis, we have to think about how we're developing players and where those players are being developed, right? So, I mean, I want to say the sky is falling, but I think it's fair to discuss this, you know?
Yeah, and it goes back to the question: is MLS? And when we say MLS academies, yeah, you can go and anyone can go and say, "Hey, FC Dallas." Yes, that's one. That's
Yeah,
our whole point. Is MLS as a whole doing a good job in the academies? The answer to that is no.
yeah,
As a whole, it's not. From the moment we start to have at least half the league having FC Dallas academies,
yeah,
that's when we can start saying MLS is starting to do a
yeah.
great job now. But
Let
until
me
then, we can only celebrate one or two academies.
That's not enough. Yeah. Let me talk about a guys that I think could be headed in the right direction. And LAFC. I live in LA. I attended a couple of LAFC youth practices. They're Todd Saldana is the director of youth development. They're very serious about youth development. They're very focused on it. So they're very new still. Now I hope that they could become an FC Dallas in 5 years, right? But that is still, 3 teams. Even if they do, we don't know if they will, but that's still 3 teams. LA Galaxy, man, what is going on? Like, honestly, the US there's so much talent in SoCal. It's ridiculous that LA Galaxy has not developed more players by now. Efra and Araujo, even then, I don't think either of those guys are elite players, I know they have Uli, Yanez, and Alex Mendez, but even them, like at this point, there's still a long ways to go. So everybody needs to join the youth development wave in a much more serious way if we're going to actually have a chance to not only compete in 26, but regularly compete with the rest of the world.
Pete, I want to add to what you said, but before you want to answer probably
Yeah,
the
sorry,
hoodie.
DS. Go ahead. You can get this in the link below. If you just go to the merch store, it's up there. A lot of people have gotten it in the last 24 hours. Chris Gary, all USMNT home games should play man in the mirror. I think we should save that for Mexico. When we play Mexico, we play man in the mirror. Because in Mexico, it was the one who did it to us, right? It was Memo Ochoa who said it. So it should be our long running joke with Mexico. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Adding to what you were saying about that, it's people can analyze it in this way. We have a lot of the players in this U20 team with MLS experience, and they're not starters, all of them, but they're playing. They're useful for their teams. So when I look at the Brazilian national team, the U18 that was there, every single player in that national team would probably be starting in MLS, or at least in the bench on the bench, in pretty big prospect, right? There would be people who are like, oh, this guy can be in the national team. In Brazil, a lot of these players, nobody knows who they are. Mateus Nascimento is in the second division. He was the highest rated player in this team, and he's in the second division of Brazil on the bench. And yeah, there's big European offers, but
Yeah.
what I wonder is, like, how can people not see that, right? We do have to recognize that some MLS academies are doing a better job, and some clubs in MLS are new. So we can't expect them to just be born and just have an academy, because they have to first build the club, build the
Sure.
fan base,
And we're
get
giving
their
them that time, like LAFC,
yeah.
for example.
LAFC, Orlando, now the new franchise at Nashville, Inter Miami, Austin, every new franchise, even Atlanta United as well, right?
Yeah.
So with that said, we shouldn't fall into this fake narrative that MLS academies are doing a great job. It is a
Yeah.
fake narrative.
It's
That's the way to put it.
complacency, right? We cannot get complacent just because we're developing a bunch of young players. Remember, some of them are dual nationals that we recruited. A lot of them came from the Dallas and Philly academies, and some of them are outliers. Christian Pulisic is an outlier, okay? He didn't even come from an MLS academy. He came from Hershey, Pennsylvania, and he played for the PA Classics and then went to Dortmund. Gio Reyna's outlier, okay? Very good soccer playing dad, soccer playing mom. Spent a lot of time even getting developed in Europe. Those guys are outliers. MLS can't even claim those guys, right? Brendan Aronson, yes. Ricardo Pepi, yes. Mark McKenzie. Tyler Adams went through the New York Red Bulls. Red Bulls used to develop a lot of players. Tim Howard, Josie Altador, Tim Ream, so many guys that the Red Bulls used to develop. Let's get that back up. Let's get the Red Bulls, come on, churning out more players, right? So there's still a lot that we can do, and we'll keep having these discussions, I think, Filippo, because I think it's important, and nobody else is having these discussions, right?
I also think a lot of the owners are stupid. No offense to them.
Well,
And
define stupid. What do you mean by that?
by stupid is, obviously you're investing for the long term for this, but if you develop players you can easily sell them for 5, 8, $10 million, and the investment is much lower. Now, one thing they don't realize too is MLS is not a proven market. Once it's proven, those prices do go up, just
Yeah.
like Brazil, right? If you're gonna buy an 18-year-old Brazilian that's doing well in a Brazilian academy, you got to put in 30 million for that kid. If he's
Yeah.
playing in the first team and getting minutes, it's 40, 50. In MLS, not yet because it's not proven. There has to be more players. But if they invest in their academies, if they put money and start to develop these players that work in Europe, you're going to get European teams paying 20, 30 million. And honestly, 30 million for an MLS club, some of them,
That
that's
would
what
be huge.
they don't even have that profit right now.
I mean, look at Alphonso Davies, right? That's the biggest ever sale in MLS, 22 million, including all of the things that he got because he developed that high. Who was the second biggest sale from MLS? Do you remember?
From academy or in general?
In general.
In general, I think it's Miguel Almiron, probably.
Oh, no. Okay. Let's say academy. Someone who was developed in MLS.
Probably Brendan.
Was Brendan how much? 5?
He was like 8 or 10.
Oh, that much, huh?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
Brendan, Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds was like 11.
No, really?
Yeah. They pay. I'll pull it up here.
You
Hold
pull
on.
that up. The other thing I want to push back against is that some markets don't have enough talent. And I hear this from people in Portland. Whenever I question, why aren't you guys developing players? And they say, we have no talent in Portland. That is false in every sense of the word. Talent exists everywhere in the world. It's just you're not doing a good job of developing it. You're not making it a focus. If Iceland, a country that is covered in snow and ice for 9 months out of the year, with a population of 300,000 people, which is smaller than the city of Portland itself, can develop players, then trust me, Portland Timbers can develop players. Seattle, for sure, can develop players.
So, Pete, Reynolds went for $7.43 million plus incentives. I don't know what the incentives are.
Yeah.
Brendan Harrison went for $6 million, also plus incentives, whatever.
Right, and that's a good start for where MLS is right now. Pepe will probably go for 10. I don't think they'll get more than 10 for Pepe, to be very honest. And 10 is a pretty good sale for FC Dallas, right? But you should do 10 with sell-on fee. So you pay 10 million, and then if they sell him for 30 million down the line, you get, I don't know, 20% of that. Okay, so now you get another 6.
Pete,
so,
but look at this. Josie, actually in 2008, or actually 2008, 2009, he left to go to Villarreal for 8 million, which at the time,
that was good.
It's pretty damn high.
Yeah, well, that was right after they sold Tim Howard to Man U in 2004.
We declined.
And then Tim Ream went to Bolton from the Red Bulls Academy as well, right? So they were definitely developing players up in Red Bull. I don't know what happened. It's slowed down considerably since then. So anyways, it's not all doom and gloom, guys, but it's an important issue that we have to talk about. And I think this tournament is highlighting that we still have a long way to go. There's some interesting talent there, and we'll continue to probably recruit as well. But we still have a long way to go. Remember, what is your goal? If we want to be plucky underdogs all the time and go to World Cups hopeful, maybe we can get out of our group and can we maybe one day win a knockout game that's not for a CONCACAF team. So the only thing we've done was Mexico. Then that's fine. Then we don't really need to improve our development because we'll continue to develop athletes and plucky guys and a few skill guys here and there. But if we want to compete with the rest of the world, if we want to be a world soccer power, which we can and should be, we're going to have to raise our game in the development department because it's getting better, but it's still not there. Stephen Nigishi says, bunch of MLS owners also own NFL, NBA, and MLB. Bunch of old white guys with no forward-thinking vision and lack of diversity and awareness. So, Stephen, it doesn't really matter to me whether they're white or not. My focus is on I want them to develop players. And you're right that a lot of them see their MLS team as like a tax write-off, which for a lot of them it is. They report their MLS team as a loss of income, and it helps them with their taxes. We see this in a lot of different markets. Thankfully, a lot of the newer MLS owners that are coming in are pushing back against this narrative and asking for more things that will make us a better league, getting rid of the salary cap, getting rid of homegrown territories so that you can recruit players from all over the country. And kudos to Sporting KC, for example, for recruiting Bucio from, the other side of America. They got him from Alabama, I believe. And they brought him in and, good for them. But they need to do more, Sporting KC. because they're not developing enough players. Okay. So I think this is a good place to end it, unless you have any thoughts.
I think that's everything I wanted to say. And pretty much what you said as well. It's not doom and gloom. That's not what we're
No,
saying.
no, it
We're
is
just
not.
trying to show everyone that the narrative that MLS is doing a great job in the academies is a lie. MLS is improving the academies and it's slowly getting there, but it's still a little too slow, especially for the older franchises. And they have to find a way to tell the owners, hey, can you please invest in your academy or get rid of territorial rights, things like that, that push owners to invest or just to suck forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the world's game, right? You're competing with the rest of the world. You're not just competing with other American sports. That's
Just one thing before
yeah.
you go, because when I did mention this on one of the streams, someone commented down below, it's like, yeah, but if you do that, because I said that MLS punishes the losers, and then sorry, protects the losers. MLS protects the losers. And then someone says, well, that's better than the European structure that just benefits the winners. And then I just said, wait, you want to benefit the winners. That's who you should
That's how you
benefit.
incentivize excellence.
Yeah, you
Yes.
don't protect the losers and punish the winners. Keep the
Yeah.
winners, and congratulations, you're a winner, so there has to be a benefit for you, right? Because you won.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would you put in the effort? Just stay last. And
Well,
that's what
not just
many
that. Like super clubs will pay, like a Manchester United. How much did they pay for Jack Grealish from Aston Villa? 100.
City paid like 100
I'm
million
sorry,
pounds.
City million. Yeah,
100 million
100
pounds.
million pounds. So the Aston Villa Academy, 100 million pounds. You know how that incentivizes them to invest in their academy because you sell Jack Grealish for that kind of money? That's what we should aim for. We should aim for an American to be bought from MLS 10 years from now for 100 million pounds. Okay, that should be the goal. Or 80 million pounds, even 50. Like,
Or at least what they pay for like the young Brazilians, like 30, 40,
yeah,
age
30, 40
18,
million.
19 young players.
Yeah. We'll get there. I think it's just a matter of continuing to demand excellence across the board. So guys, thanks for coming to hang out. I need to get back to I'm doing the Patreon video from last night's game, the USA Mexico.
I need to sleep.
Tack, get some rest. We'll see you guys on Tuesday for the USA Jamaica. What do you think? Real quick thoughts on Jamaica. We got to get this win. Guys, as much as it feels good to be on top, we're 3 points off of fourth place. I just want to remind us of that. So we cannot afford to screwball around with, this Jamaica game just because we beat Mexico. If we lose to Jamaica, and I don't think we will, but if we do, we could be in fourth by the end of that game. So let's just keep that in mind. I hope we see Busio and Richards to replace Miles Robinson and McKennie. Do you have any other thoughts about the game?
No, just these are very important 3 points, right? If we get to these 3 points, we're gonna hit 17, and that means we could possibly qualify at the next camp. And you guys need to understand how important this is. This team is young, and going to the last camp, needing to qualify, that's where the lack of experience could get exposed. Because missing another World Cup, the pressure will build on these kids, and that's something we don't want. So 3 points today, 17. We go to the next camp, we get 6 to 7 points. We're in Qatar. Last camp is just preparation for the World Cup.
Yes, exactly. So, looking bright. Let's hope we see a good, strong lineup, no Areola or Acosta or Legit or Roldan in the starting lineup against Jamaica. Thanks for watching, guys. We will continue to talk about stuff, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great rest of your weekend.